Hi, and welcome to SonRise Equestrian Foundation. We are so glad that you're here as a volunteer. We hope that this will be a great experience for you as you become part of the SonRise family, helping children with social, emotional, and physical challenges.
Sidewalkers are one of the most crucial volunteer roles here at SonRise. They're so important in helping to keep our kids safe during their riding lessons and also helping them to learn the skills that they need and accomplish the goals that they have for their lessons.
We hope that this video will help you become a safe and effective volunteer for SonRise. Here are the requirements for being a Sidewalker volunteer. Being a Sidewalker can be very physically demanding, so please look through the list and see that it's something that you think you can handle. This list is also available in our volunteer handbook. The minimum age for a Sidewalker is 16 years old. You need to be able to walk and jog in sand or light footing for up to a half an hour. You need to have better than average hearing and sight so that you can hear and understand the mentor's instructions and be able to help the child. You will need to be able to do 3 sessions of a half an hour each, up to 3 hours a day. So physical capability is an important issue.
Proper apparel is an important part of your safety while you're sidewalking at SonRise. As you're walking next to the horse, next to that child, you don't want to be wearing anything that that child could reach or grab and hook onto you. So a hat, sunglasses, jewelry, those things should be removed before you sidewalk with the child. What Megan is demonstrating is proper apparel as far as her clothing goes. Our sidewalkers should wear long pants and closed-toed shoes. Boots are ideal. A SonRise shirt is optional. We do provide those, but not required. So the first thing that we need to do is to mount our child onto the horse, and sidewalkers are going to be helpful with that. If you are sidewalking on the left-hand side of the horse, you're going to be stepping back to allow that mentor to mount the child, but they may need your assistance in helping that child swing their leg over the horse's back. If you are sidewalking on the off side or the right-hand side of the horse, you can assist with the mount by providing some counterbalance or counterweight in the stirrup while that child mounts. Most of the time we're using a mounting block. We do also have some mounting platforms, and providing this counterweight really just helps to keep that saddle from pulling against the horse's withers. It makes it more comfortable for him. The saddle's going to be tight, the cinch is going to be checked, but that's going to be a little way that we can help make our horse more comfortable during the mount and help to keep that saddle centered. Rein and mane. Left foot in the stirrup. And swing your right leg over. Good job. As the sidewalker on the right-hand side, after you've provided that counterweight in the stirrup, you're going to receive that child's leg over onto your side and guide their foot into the stirrup. If you're the sidewalker on the horse's left-hand side, once the child has mounted, the mentor will remove the mounting block and you can come up into position at the rider's leg in your normal sidewalking position. As a sidewalker, your priority is the safety of the child first, then your safety, and lastly, the horse. As a sidewalker, it's also really important to be physically and mentally ready to act, to be aware of your environment and engaged in what's going on in the lesson. So if you're thinking about what you're gonna make for dinner tonight, or that tough conversation you had with a friend earlier today, check those things at the gate so you can really be engaged and focused on that child and present in the situation. To be physically ready to act, your position is going to be important. That horse can move in half a second, and it can happen like that with no warning signs. So as a sidewalker, you need to be ready to move with that horse if he spooks or reacts to something. So some things that you want to do in your position to be ready are to have the correct holds on the rider, to be positioned at the rider's leg. You don't want to have your feet crossed. While you're sidewalking, stay up at the rider's leg instead of falling back towards the horse's flank so that you can keep yourself safe and effectively help the child. Many of our kids will require some assistance while they're riding, and we're going to use a couple different kinds of holds to provide that support that they need in the saddle. The most common hold that we use is called over the thigh, and that requires the volunteer to hold onto the front of the saddle and put your forearm over the rider's thigh. When getting a grip on the front of the saddle, make sure that you're not getting your fingers in any way stuck or attached to that horse if he were to move. And as you're holding your arm in that over the thigh position, you don't want to lean on the horse or rider, but just have your arm there so you're able to provide support. If that child is bouncing up out of the saddle, that is when we can provide some stability with some pressure over the thigh. If you are working with a child who has very poor core support, we can take a modified over the thigh hold, coming across with our outside hand and freeing up our inside hand to provide support to the rider's back. When we provide support to the core, we don't want to become a chair for the rider. Not only does that make our arm tired very quickly, but it's also not going to help that child to develop their own core strength. So when we're using a hold from the back, we're going to use pressure and release. Prompt that child, help them sit up, and then release the pressure. We may need to repeat this, but we don't want to hold the pressure on so that child develops their own muscle tone. When providing this support from the back, you want to make sure that you don't dig your elbow into the horse's back as you're going. On some riders, we will also use an ankle hold, which is just a hold around the rider's ankle. This provides support for a leg that is loose and floppy. If that child's lower leg is moving a lot, they may be inadvertently kicking the horse or bringing their leg back towards the horse's flank area, and we want to secure it down here. If we have a child who has a lot of tension in their muscles, they may also be inadvertently squeezing or gripping the horse and cueing that horse to speed up, in which case the ankle hold helps to prevent the leg from squeezing the horse. For our more independent riders, we may just use an ankle hold to provide a little bit of support and pull down into the saddle, leaving them free to ride more independently on their own. One of the things that we do with our kids is an exercise called Around the World. It's really fun, and that rider gets to sit sideways and backwards in the saddle, helping them to develop a lot of their core strength and their muscle development. So Julie's going to demonstrate Around the World for us, and then we're going to talk about those holds. So Julie, can you bring your right leg over the front? As that rider is rotating in the saddle, you can help make sure that that rider does not kick the horse in the neck or in the rump as their leg comes over. If the rider is sitting facing you, you're going to provide support under their knees to make sure that they don't slide off towards you. When the rider is facing backwards, we can take our traditional over the thigh hold. They're just going to be facing the other way. In this case, the leg is sitting a little bit further back towards the flank, so we're going to use that ankle hold to make sure that the child doesn't kick the horse in the flank. If that rider is facing away from you, you're going to use a hold around the rider's hips. Anytime that you are touching a sensitive part of the body, we want to make sure to use flat hands and not grabby fingers. If that child is able to balance by themselves, keep your hands there and only hold if they really need the assistance. This is going to help keep the child from sliding off the other side of the horse. If a child is leaning off to one side, we're going to first encourage them to self-adjust. We usually do this by saying wiggle, wiggle, find the middle. If that rider can adjust their weight on their own, that's the best option. If the rider is unable to adjust their balance so that they're in the center of the horse, then we're going to need to help adjust their seat in the saddle. To do that, we're going to put a flat hand on their hip and help shift their weight back into the center. If you feel like your child is losing their balance quickly or leaning further than we can adjust in the saddle, let your mentor know immediately. We will stop and help that child fix their balance before they fall off. If you're sidewalking and your shoulder starts to get tired, mention that to the mentor and we can stop and have you switch sides with the other sidewalkers so you can get a workout on both sides. We never want to leave that child unattended and step away at the same time. So in order to switch sides, one sidewalker is going to come around the front of the horse. They're going to come in behind, replace your hold so that you can walk around to the other side of the horse and switch sides.
As a sidewalker, it's really important to remember to never walk behind the horse unless you've been instructed to by the mentor. Whenever you need to switch sides or change position, always walk in front of the horse.
During the lesson, your job is to help that child follow the instructions that the mentor gives them. The first thing that's going to happen is the child will receive a verbal instruction from the mentor about what to do. For example, Julie, on the count of 3, we're going to stop our horse. After they've received that verbal instruction, if the child is unresponsive, you're going to help remind or help them actually complete the task they've been asked to do. So if Julie's been asked to stop and she's not doing anything, I'm going to be tapping the part of her body that should be cueing the horse, in this case her hands. So Julie has not responded to the verbal command. I'm going to tap her hand to remind her, hey, this should be doing something. If Julie is still unable to complete the task that she's been asked to do, we're going to use hand over hand to physically move that child's part of the body in the way that it should be going. In this case, I'm going to take Julie's hand and pull the rein back so that she can see the connection of what her action is telling the horse to do. Okay, Julie, on the count of 3, we're going to ask Noble to whoa. 1, 2, 3. Our goal is to give that child as much independence as possible. So we don't want to overhelp the child or immediately jump in and do it for them. We want to give them the opportunity to do it by themselves and then offer support and assistance as needed. During the lesson, we often use toys and props to help engage our kids and teach them the skills for horseback riding. Often these toys will fall on the ground, and as a sidewalker, our natural tendency is to reach down and pick it up. But as soon as we do that, we've left our rider unattended. We've shifted our focus from the rider to the prop on the ground, and we've essentially abandoned the child. So if something falls on the ground during the course of the lesson, don't worry about it. The mentor can pick it up. Your job is to stay with the child. In a one-on-one lesson, the mentor is going to be doing most of the talking to the child. We don't want to overwhelm the child with too much verbal input, so as a sidewalker, please make sure that you're not over-talking or talking over the mentor as they're trying to give an instruction. If there's an appropriate time for you to repeat an instruction or to engage that child, that's fine, but we don't want to have too many people talking at them from different sides. During the lesson, please don't cue or distract the horse. The assistant mentor who is handling the horse and the rider should be the ones who are cueing the horse. The mentor will be the person dismounting the child from the horse, but if you're sidewalking on the off side, you can help by making sure that that child takes their foot out of the stirrup and assist them in swinging their leg up over the horse. We've got a couple different kinds of dismounts that we do with our riders. The crest dismount brings the leg over the front of the horse. Notice how the sidewalker helped make sure that the rider did not kick Noble in the neck while she was bringing her leg over the front. The croup dismount is when the rider swings their leg over the back, and this can be a little bit more difficult for some riders, especially if they have tightness in their hips. Which dismount we use, the mentor will direct you, and as the offside spotter, you're going to assist with that leg coming over.
Your mentor will direct you to how to exactly hold your child for certain circumstances. If a child is pulling on your hair or somehow in a position that can hurt you, your main job is to not abandon the child, but to hold them on the horse. It is important that you protect yourself when you're working with a child who may become aggressive. You may do a over the wrist hold or use a flat hand to deflect or block a hit. If they have gotten to a point where the mentor determines that it is unsafe for them to be on the horse, we will do an emergency dismount. During an emergency dismount, the mentor will become in charge and let all of the volunteers know what's going to happen. First of all, the reins will be moved out of the way and the horse handler will hold those. Feet will be taken out of the stirrup on both sides, and the offside sidewalker will help lift the leg over the back of the horse while the mentor removes the child from the horse. Once the child is removed from the horse, the mentor will block the child from the horse until it's removed from the area. Sidewalkers should step back until the horse is removed and then assist the mentor. While these situations rarely happen, it's important to know how to react in the situation and to remember how important it is to always be mentally on your game. We get so lulled into the fact that the horses are so great here that we forget sometimes that anything can happen. They can spook at any time, and it's so important that we are always ready and prepared to react appropriately. Another type of visit that you may go on is into a hospital or children's facility where we need to be sure that the horses don't have an accident in the facility. So you may be the sidewalker who ends up carrying the bucket, which is in case the horse has to go while you're in the facility. Typically, the horse will give you signs that they will start being fidgety, and if you hold your hand on the tail, they will have to lift their tail to use the bathroom, so you will know that something's coming. At that point, if you cannot get the horse with the horse handler out of the facility in time, you'll need to use the bucket to try to catch any manure. You may be at a traveling tales location where the children are in a crowd around the horse and running at the horse. Often they are wearing sandals or light tennis shoes, and so it's important that we do some crowd control and use our body to block the horse from the child if necessary. Often it's important to step in front of the child and put your leg and foot between the horse and the child to protect them from getting stepped on, both in the front or in the rear. In the rear of the horse, when you step between the horse and the child, you can also use your hip to block the hip of the horse from moving into the child.
Thanks for watching this video. You'll have an opportunity to do some hands-on practice when you come for training at the ranch, but we look forward to seeing you and we really appreciate you volunteering.